Hi, and welcome to the fifth and final part of the Biped series. In this video, we're going to look at making the final connections as well as going over the code for your robot. For the connections, you could see here that I've used several extensions to connect the servos directly onto the sensor shield itself. Now the sensor shield should go directly on top of the Arduino Uno, and I'll go over the specific connections when we get to the code later on as to which servo connects to which pin. Now when powering your sensor shield, you want to make sure that your pin here is connected, so that way the motors will draw power from an external power supply, and the voltage that you're going to need is going to be, if you look at the data sheet, it's going to be between 4.8 volts and 6.0 volts for the HS311 servo. Anything over 6 volts will potentially destroy your motor. Let's look at the Arduino code. As you can see here, I've broken up my codes into multiple files, so that way each individual function is broken up. If you run the code, here's what's going to happen. The center position function is going to put the robot in neutral position, and I'll explain what that is later. The LED is going to blink 5 times. There's going to be a delay for 4 seconds, and the robot's going to move forward 3 times. And then it's going to be a short delay, and the robot's going to go back to center position, and that's it. I didn't include anything in the loop function because I didn't want the robot to continuously walk. I just wanted it to walk a few times just to demonstrate the code for you guys. Let's look at the first file, which is the global file. Now here is the beginning of the Arduino code, and the first thing here is going to be including the servo library, so that way you could control the servos. The next part is going to be creating the servo objects, and the names here are with respect to looking at the robot from behind. So as you can see here, I've named my servo left ankle, which corresponds to this servo here. This would be the right ankle, this would be the left hip, the right hip, left shoulder, and right shoulder. The next part of the code is going to be assigning the digital pins to the LEDs. If you're not using the LEDs, you could just delete this part or just comment it out. The right eye, which is going to be this eye right here, is going to be attached to digital pin 12. If you could see here, the red wire is connected to pin 12 and ground is connected to the ground rail. And digital pin 7 is going to be for the left eye, which you could see here that it's going to be connected to pin 7, and I've already soldered it on. If you're wondering about the pins of the sensor shield, it starts with 0 as the bottom pin here, and it goes up in order all the way to 13. Now the next part is setting neutral position values for your motor. Now when I say neutral, I mean that both feet are flat with the feet pointing straight outwards. Again. So this is flat with both feet facing outwards. The hips are also straight, and both hands are going to be pointing down. So this is neutral position. Now your motor value might vary slightly, so just change whichever one that you have to in order to put the robot in neutral position. Now these right here are some delay variables that I will use later on in my code, and the 4 delay here is just the delay of movement of each single motor, and the delay 1 is just the transition delay from one motor to the next. And this is going to determine how fast your robot is going to be walking. Now let's go over the setup function. Now you can see here, the first thing I did with the setup function is set the digital pins as outputs for the LEDs, and you could do this using the pin mode function. Again, both 12 and 7 for the right and left eye will be set as your output. The Arduino Uno only has 6 pins capable of pulse width modulation, therefore you will have to attach the motors to one of these 6 pins, and if you're following along, I recommend just using the exact pins that I'm using. The left ankle, again, this motor is going to be connected to pin 3, the right ankle is going to be connected to pin 5, the left hip to 6, right hip to 9, left shoulder to 11, and right shoulder to 10. And if you're connecting using a servo extension wire, you could easily just plug them in directly into its associated pin. For example, this first one right here is going to be the left ankle, and it's connected to pin 3 and all the way through. Again, for my setup, I'm going to blink the LED 5 times, move forward, and then back to center position. For my loop, there's nothing here because I'm not looping anything. If you guys want the robot to continuously walk or continuously do something, you could put in your walk function here. This is just the LED functions for turning on and off the LEDs. You could look at it in detail if you want. Again, this is the same thing for the arm. Okay, let's go over the walking function. Now, in order to get the robot to walk, of course, you'll have to move the ankles and the hips, which is why I've separated the functions into ankle functions and hip functions. And the forward is just using a combination of these functions so that way it'll walk forward. The center function here, it's just setting the motors to its center position, so its neutral position. And lower center here is just if you want to set the lower motors to neutral, so just the hips and the ankle motors to neutral, so that way you can move your arms however you want. Again, let's look at the walking function. Now, for both ankles and hips, you can see that I've broken the code down into first time and loop. And what this is when I'm looping through the walking function, the robot's gonna be in this, so maybe it's better if I turn it this way. Now first time just means that I want the robot in this position, because once it's in this position, I could loop once, loop twice, and loop 3 times, and etc, etc. So to begin the loop, the robot would have to be in this position right here, and if you look at the code, that's what first time is. So first time, left ankle, to put the left ankle in this position, and the loop is just going to be after the first time. Again, it's the same thing for the hip. You have a first time part and you have a loop part. The forward function puts together all of the functions in the ankle and hip to make the robot walk forward. As you can see here, there's a first time part for putting the robot in this position here, and then else is just the loop after that. Let's go ahead and make the necessary connections so that way we could upload the code. Go ahead and plug in your data cable into your Arduino, and then make the necessary power connections for 5 volts. Make sure that your board is selected, your serial port is connected, and then you could go ahead and just upload. Well, you could verify the code first, make sure there are no errors, and then you could go ahead and upload the code. Alright, so that's gonna be the end of this video, and if you guys have any further questions, feel free to let me know.